people are celebrating the 4th of July. I celebrate the 4th of July, and I also celebrate Juneteenth. Why? Because I am both African American and American. Both of them are fights for freedom, and I'm not going to be denied any freedoms that I can get. To me, as an emerging leader and as a recovering egoholic, life is not about either or. Life is about yes and I want to embrace all of the yes and that I can in my life because it helps to make me what I am. Hey everyone, good afternoon. My name is Tim Olson. I am the host for the 10 Commandments of Leadership. Here at the 10 Commandments of Leadership, there are two primary things that we do. But let me ask you this question first. What if the secret to great leadership isn't burning brighter, but reflecting better? What if the secret to great leadership isn't about burning brighter, but about reflecting better? Too many leaders scorch their teams like a noonday sun. Egoholism blinds them, burns their trust, and leaves them with a scorched earth culture. On this episode today, this episode of Independence Day of the 10 Commandments of Leadership, we're going to discover something new, probably that you've never thought about before. We're going to discover why the moon, which is a silent, borrowed light reflector, is the true model, the truest models for emerging leaders, and how you and I can bounce back after bad leadership by learning how to glow instead of learning how to glare. And so I encourage you just to sit back, take a seat. As I said to the group earlier in the teaser, grab your favorite seat, pop in your earbuds, and let's learn how to lead like the moon, which is humbly, dependably, and brilliantly reflective, and not like the sun. This 4th of July episode I have entitled, Lead Like the Moon, Step 4 in Egoholism Recovering, Grow Up to Be a Child. Are you ready? This is probably not a message that you're really expecting, but I want to drop it on you because I think this is very, very important as we look to celebrate freedoms and move on. And really, not just move on, but move up. While America celebrates independence for 249 years from colonial rule, we're pursuing a different kind of freedom here today, and that is our freedom from egoholism. Yes. I want you to know that this is going to be an exciting time here on the 10 Commandments of Leadership. Why? Because we have, this is where we help emerging leaders detox their egos and lead from a place of humility and authenticity and strength. Here with the 10 Commandments of Leadership in our daily weekday podcast, we feature two primary objectives. And those are just, number one, we seek to educate, equip, and empower emerging leaders with God-thought leadership. Once again, leadership is not based upon a title or a position, but rather true leadership is based upon two other ingredients, which are influence and relationships. Okay. Our second objective is to present current events and newsmakers in the light of best practices from the Bible. Certainly today, being the 4th of July, national holiday, is a day that we need to do some commemoration and some reflecting and some moving forward. And so today, as we continue our series, we want to talk about how to lead like the moon. We're going to explore it through an unlikely but powerful metaphor. Lead like the moon, not like the sun. Think about it. The moon is silent. It doesn't make any noise. It doesn't generate its own light. And it doesn't compete with the sun. It simply reflects the sun. Doesn't compete, doesn't make noise, doesn't generate its own light, doesn't compete. It reflects the sun. And in many ways, most transformative leaders those particularly recovering from egoholisms like me, are the ones who stop trying to shine like the sun and instead choose to reflect like the moon. Let's explore that a little bit further today. Give a little bit more understanding of that. Let me take you back. When I was a kid, I used to be fascinated by the moon. I mean, fascinated by the moon. Not because it shone like the sun, but because it seemed as though it followed me on night drives in our family car. I remember looking out the window of the car thinking, that moon is keeping me company at night. That moon kept me company as I was on family drives in our car. Years later, I learned the scientific truth, and that was that the moon doesn't produce any light. None at all. It reflects only about 12% of the sun that it receives. The moon does not produce any light. And here's what hit me like a thunderclap. That's a prime example of servant leadership. That's the kind of leader that I want to be. In the Bible, in the book of John, chapter 8, verse 12, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. So what does that make us? We're not co-lights, we're not rivals, we're reflections. We're reflections. We are the moon to his sun. Are you with me? We are the moon to his sun. Too often, especially in egoholism, we strive to shine, to be the spotlight, the center, the generator of brilliance. But moon leadership is a very, very different calling. It's quieter, it's humbler, and more powerful over time. It is the light from the moon that guides sailors. It is the light from the moon that governs tides. The light from the moon anchors calendars and crops. And it never says a word. Let me tell you the truth. Of all of the 7 steps in my egoholism recovering path, step 4, grow up to be a child, is the one that I personally struggle with the most. Why? Because it often feels like the thinnest one because it requires the most unlearning. It appears to be the thinnest one because it requires the most unlearning. Let's face it. You and I were taught to grow up, to stand tall, and to command the rooms, right? But Jesus turned that whole thing on its head in Matthew 18:3 when he said, unless you become like little children, you will not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Translation? Your promotion to heaven may not be tied to your resume. It won't be tied to your resume. It'll be tied to your humility. Your promotion into heaven will not be tied to your resume, but it will be tied to your humility. And the truth is, childlike leadership is deeply powerful. Children reflect, they mirror, they absorb, they follow. And most importantly, they don't pretend to be the source of anything. That's what lunar leadership is. Not drawing attention to ourselves, but faithfully reflecting the light that we have received. You know, a Harvard Business Review study in 2023 found that humble leaders increase their team's engagement by 40%. A Harvard Business study in 2023, and we say it again, found that humble leaders increase their team engagement by 40%. Why? Because people trust mirrors. And people at the same time are also suspicious of spotlights. So this 4th of July, as fireworks light the sky and declarations of freedom echo around us, ask yourself these questions. What kind of freedom are you declaring? The freedom to shine or the freedom to reflect? How do we bounce back after bad leadership? Let's be honest. Some of us have tried to lead with broken trust. We've survived toxic leadership. I mean, we've been micromanaged, we've been overlooked, we've been scapegoated, and we've been burned. And now we're tempted to overcompensate by saying such things as, if I ever get promoted, I'll show them. I'll do it my way. I'll burn brighter than they ever did. But remember, the sun burns, but the moon glows. The sun burns, but the moon glows. So how can we bounce back and reflect instead of react? I call it the moon method. Number one, like the moon, rotate. The moon rotates to stay in sync with the earth. You need rhythm, devotional time, coaching, self-checks. Number two, the moon reflects. Keep a journal. Share credit. Talk about others' wins, not so much about your wins. Number three, wax and wane. Wax and wane. Your visibility will change, sometimes full, sometimes half, but be faithful anyway, regardless of the waxing or the waning. One of my favorite examples, after a leadership crisis at a university I worked with, I had a chance to join a team to rebuild a freshman program. But this time, in my recovering process, I chose to reflect more than I projected. I let others shine. How? I asked questions before offering answers. That's moonlight leadership. That's step 4 in action. Let me give you now four practical ways to lead like the moon, to grow up by growing down. Grow up by growing down. Number one is what I call the Wonder Watch. Spend 15 minutes a day asking questions that you don't already know the answers to. Let your curiosity lead you. Number two, knee level leadership. Sit at the level of your interns in your office. Pray on your knees. Get low. Step 3 is what I call show and tell credit. Celebrate others publicly. Tell stories of their growth, not just of your growth. And finally, number 4 is what I call bedtime surrender. End each night with this prayer: Lord, shine through me tomorrow. Dim me where needed. These aren't soft skills. These are what I call sacred postures. Tonight, once again, the sky will burst with fireworks. But after the colors fade and the smoke from the fireworks clears, the moon will still be there. Quiet, faithful, reflecting. That's who we are. So here's your challenge. Take a picture of tonight's moon, post it with hashtag silver medal leader, and share one way you plan to reflect God's light this week. Not generate your own, but reflect God's light. Because the world has enough suns, but it needs more moons. Hey, thanks for joining me today. Lead well, reflect better, and remember, as always, we lead from the middle. Hopefully, I've been able to share some insights with you from my own levels of experience and exposure, from my own trials and triumphs. And hopefully you've been able to glean from that and can put something into your hard drive of your life, and you can glow and you can reflect. Remember, it's more important to reflect the sun than it is to try to be the sun. People are attracted to those who are sincere, who are real, who are reflectors, not necessarily spotlights. Thanks for joining in. If I've said anything that you find inspiring, informative, educational, encouraging, then like it, share it, and subscribe. And I'll see you next week on Monday for the newest episodes of the 10 Commandments of Leadership. Take care, enjoy the 4th, but don't go out and get a 5th.